Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So it's Sunday, meaning that it is Storytime Sunday. I was going to do a video related to Father's Day today, but I have a video about daddy issues that I wanted to film, so I'm just like, I'll just wait for that. So for this Storytime Sunday, I wanted to share the story about how I started my YouTube channel. And what I want you guys to take from this story is that even from a really bad situation, you can turn it into a really positive and fulfilling situation. So this story directly ties into my narcissistic abuse story, obviously, because that's the first video on my channel. Now, I reference that video a lot, and I only reference it a lot because, like I said, it's the start of my channel. It's the only reason I even decided to make a YouTube channel, was that situation. You can always go and watch it, but I'm going to recap it if you don't feel like going back and watching it. Basically, I just met a guy, and he turned out to be a narcissist, and he mentally and emotionally just abused the hell out of me and sent me into a very dark time period of my life. So that was in October. Now, my first video, I want to say, was posted in December, if I'm not mistaken. So there was this 2-month gap in between what he did to me and when I first posted my video that is of significance. Like, that gap of time between those two is of significance. So pretty much this guy, like I said, I met him, fell in love with him, and he did horrible shit to me, said horrible shit to me that triggered deep trauma within myself and made me pretty much lose my mind and go nuts. When I say I lost my mind from that situation, I am not exaggerating. Like, I was very close on the brink of insanity, only because your brain does this thing where when you experience trauma, it will bury the trauma so that you can go around every day functioning. If you had to relive your trauma over and over and over again, especially things that happened to you as a kid, you would probably need to be checked into a hospital because you would not be able to function properly at all. So your brain basically buries those traumas in your subconscious so that you don't have to think about them on a day-to-day, so that you can survive and go about your business. That's why when a lot of people go to therapy, they unlock memories that they didn't even know they had because their brain has buried them so deeply because they're that traumatic. And I also want to note that just because they're buried deeply doesn't mean that they don't affect the action and choices that you make, because they do. They're buried deeply enough that you don't have to think about them consciously, but they still are a driving force behind why you behave the way that you behave. That guy, what he basically did was used all my trauma against me, you could say, and threw it at me in a way that made them all come to the surface at once, and I couldn't handle it. I would be going to sleep having panic attacks and waking up out my sleep having a panic attack, and I just could not function. I cried sometimes I would cry for 12 hours straight, and there were days where I just could not get up out of my bed, and days where I just was like, I couldn't believe, like, my body was such in shock from the emotional pain. Like, I couldn't even believe that that type of pain existed. Like, I could not believe. And like I mentioned in my storytime video about my night in a racist hospital, I suffer from gastritis, which is like a stomach inflammation. So when I have gastritis flare-ups, those are pretty painful, but no flare-up I've ever had compares to the pain that that man put me through. I think that the worst type of emotional pain is the emotional pain that brings you back to a dark place from your past that you were trying to forget. Like, it's one thing to inflict emotional pain on someone, but to inflict it on someone to the point where they revert back to their childhood is just like a whole nother evil. But something good came out of it, so let me stop rambling and continue on. So yeah, like I said, went through a very tough time, felt like I had lost my mind to the point where I was suicidal, and I was just like, I didn't really see any other way out of that situation. I was just like, the only way out was death, because the pain was too severe and I could not handle it. Like, my brain no longer had this defense mechanism of burying things into the subconscious. Like, they were all just, like, all the trauma was there in the front of my brain just flashing at me. And I don't wish that on my worst enemy, because especially if you've been through a series of trauma, like, having them all hit you at once is just absolutely nuts and crazy. I remember just trying to explain myself to people, like, what he did, and they just did not get it. And the feeling of emotional, like, torment and emotional pain is a million times worse when you have nobody who understands you. Nobody. Like, you're trying to explain. You're like, no, this is what happened. This is how I feel. And they're just like, you're just going through a bad breakup. You know, there's other fish in the sea. Don't worry about it. And it's just like, no, like, it's not that. It's something so much deeper than that. So who I turned to for comfort was YouTube. I would get on YouTube, and you know what's funny? I remember getting on YouTube and I had no idea what narcissistic abuse was. So I don't know how narcissistic abuse even popped up in my YouTube feed, or what I searched for it to pop up. But I feel like the universe or God or whatever you believe in has this way of throwing things in front of your face that you need to see. And that happens to me a lot through YouTube. Like, there's things that would just show up on my feed that I was just like, I wasn't looking for this. What is this? And it's something that I really needed to see for the day. So I turned to YouTube and I saw my first video about narcissistic abuse, and I was just so shook. I was just like, I have a degree in psychology. So I went to school 4 years for psychology, and I've never even heard of such a thing. So immediately I just dove into my research and just started just researching everything that I needed to research in terms of what I was going through, because I was feeling like understanding what I was going through was helping me get through it, because I really legitimately felt insane because I could not put my finger on why I was in so much emotional pain over a guy. So diving into a bunch of YouTube videos about narcissistic abuse just helped me tremendously, and it brought me so much comfort to know that people understand, you know, that people understand what I have been through. And if it had not been for those YouTube videos, I can 100% say that I would not be here, because I could not handle the pain. I could not handle it. It was to the point where I was contemplating suicide seriously. Like, I had had suicidal thoughts and tendencies in the past, you know, stemming from my depression and my upbringing, being emotionally abused as a child. And so I've always had suicidal thoughts, but this was the actual time that I actually began to devise a suicide plan, because I wanted out, because it hurt too badly. And even then, I didn't Google anything about suicide, but I remember logging on YouTube, and it was this video that was like, thinking about suicide, watch this. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, it was just so weird. I was just like, hold on, what? Because, you know, sometimes when you search things, relevant videos or relevant searches will come up, but I didn't search anything. I was just thinking it, which further proves that your thoughts do project outwards. But, you know, watch my law of attraction video. I explain that more in there. But yeah, it was like a video that was just like, feeling suicidal, watch this first. And I was just like, okay, cool. So I clicked on it, and it was basically like this woman who, sorry, this story's, it's gonna tie up, it's all gonna tie together at the end. But it was basically this woman on this video who was like, basically she's psychic, and she was saying that she has contact with a spirit who committed suicide, and basically she was retelling the tale of what happened with that woman. Like, basically the spirit was telling her, the spirit, the ghost, whatever you want to call it, the ghost of the woman was telling her, like, that she felt unloved, and she felt in so much pain that she just wanted a way out, and so she decided to kill herself. And when she killed herself, she said that her soul left her body, so she was standing there looking at her dead body, and she just said she just waited there. She just waited and waited, and she was able to see the moment when her family found her, and the devastation that they went through because of it made her regret killing herself, and she wanted to jump back into her body, but she couldn't. So she said she had to just sit back and watch her family just be broken up and heartbroken and devastated over her death. And it was a shock to her, because she didn't think that anybody would care. And so when she saw that people were broken up about it, you know, she had remorse, or she was remorseful and wanted to go back, but it was too late. Now, when you hear that story, you might think to yourself, oh, that woman's just lying. She's just saying that so that you don't commit suicide. Like, that's a made-up story. If it's real or if it's fake, it convinced me not to commit suicide. So I guess it served its purpose, because I was just like, wow. So even if you commit suicide, the pain's still not over. Like, you still like carry this negative energy or vibration with you. There's no point in leaving then, huh? So yeah, that's what stopped me from committing suicide. And I was just like, okay, so I'm not gonna commit suicide. I'm gonna stick around. Cool, fine. Because I had been convinced at that moment that nobody would care if I was gone anyway, until I saw that video. And a lot of the reason I was convinced about that is because the guy in question, he would indirectly say that to me. Like, he would indirectly he would imply that I was a waste of space and that I did not matter and no one would care if I left. You know, he wouldn't say those exact words, but it's like the way he would treat me. He would treat me like I was just so disposable, and like I was like waste, and like I was taking up too much space on this earth, and I didn't deserve to be here, you know, and that nobody would care if I was gone. So yeah, watching that video kind of counteracted the things that he had told me. And so I slowly started to try to pick up the pieces of my life and continue to research narcissistic abuse. And that's when researching narcissistic abuse, that's when I came across codependency. When I was studying narcissism, basically what I was reading was that if you fell victim to a narcissist, there's a very good chance that you are codependent. Only because people who are emotionally balanced and healthy, they usually do not fall victim to narcissistic abuse, only because narcissists let off these crazy red flags right from the beginning. And the only people that are actually going to put up with those type of things would be a codependent. Like, no emotionally balanced person is going to even look a narcissist's way for more than 2 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Unless they're extremely deceitful and they're good at hiding the red flags. But this man was not. He didn't try to hide anything. He was showing that he was trash from the very beginnings, from the moment I started talking to him. And I had to come face to face with the fact that I had codependency. Now, again, I went to college for 4 years for psychology. I never heard about codependency, not one time. And when I looked up codependency, I was like, oh my God, this is me. What the hell? And it threw me all the way off, because I legitimately thought that the way I operate was normal behavior, right? I didn't think there was much wrong with anything that I was doing. Like, when people would disrespect me and I would stick around and be with them anyway, I genuinely had convinced myself that that's what love was. Like, that's what you're supposed to do. People are going to do things and you got to stick it out and show them that you care about them. So if I was in a relationship, the more my boyfriend would disrespect me, the more I would try harder to get his approval. And I, for some sick ass reason, thought that that was acceptable. And then when I read about narcissistic abuse and found out about codependency, that's when I realized, wow, I've been operating on a very dysfunctional level my whole life. And I had no clue. And I think that's one of the main reasons that I feel like I legitimately lost my mind. Because I was like, who am I? You know, I was just like, who, I don't know who I am. Because, like, I've been operating in such a way for so long, and I thought it was completely okay and completely normal. So what else is a lie? You know, what else is fake? What else, or who else in my life is being perceived by me through a filter or a lens of codependency, and I'm not seeing the reality? When you look up codependency, the amount of symptoms that there are and the amount of things that they list that is wrong with you, it makes you feel hopeless. Like, first of all, you feel a sense of shame, because you're like, oh my God, imagine what people think about me. Imagine, like, what people have been saying about me. And I always thought I was normal. And behind closed doors, people were probably like, that girl is crazy, or that girl is, you know, has no respect for herself, or that girl is easy, or that girl is, you know. And I never knew. I just thought that what I was doing was genuine love. And I had to come to terms with the fact that I was being used. And I had to come to the fact that I had been severely abused in childhood to even develop codependency, because I knew I had a rocky upbringing, but I always blamed myself a lot for my upbringing, because I was just like, if I was a more well-behaved child, then I wouldn't have been treated a certain way. But that's what, you know, being abused will do to you. When one of your parents is abusive, they will convince you that something is wrong with you, always. So they will convince you that it's your fault and nobody else's. So I always carried the shame and the blame of being abused. So I guess this is the part that I'm talking about when I say you can turn a bad situation good, because at that moment, although I was devastated that I had discovered that I was a codependent, I was also relieved at the fact that, okay, so it wasn't my fault. I really was being abused. I'm not crazy, you know? So even that had an upside to it. So, oh gosh, what is this story time even about? Oh, about how I started my YouTube channel. Okay, so I figured out I was a codependent. I figured out that he was a narcissist. This is what basically took place between October and December when I actually started my channel. Like, I watched YouTube for entertainment. right? I love makeup, I love hair, like I love beauty channels. So I watch YouTube anyway, but I never knew that YouTube could be a source of such comfort. Like, it never crossed my mind that like people literally go on YouTube to connect and feel like they're understood. And YouTube can actually save people's lives like it saved mine. And I never came to that realization until after I was abused. Okay, sorry guys, change of background, because my camera kept overheating, and outside it's kind of breezy and cool, so I'm hoping that that's going to cool the camera down so it won't keep shutting off. But anyway, I wanted to wrap this storytime video up anyway. So pretty much, after going through all that, and after finding comfort in YouTube and finding, you know, peace of mind in YouTube, that's when I decided that I wanted to pay it forward and start a YouTube channel. I decided to make a channel, you know, focused on psychological, mental, and spiritual growth. So that's how my YouTube channel was born. I got a camera because I intended to do a beauty channel, so I needed a camera, and I just shared my narcissistic abuse story, and the response that I got from it was a very positive one. I thought I was going to just make that video and then it just was going to be over with. Like, I was going to make it, leave it on YouTube for anybody who wants to see it, who can find it, and that would be it. But after I posted that video, so many people were like just coming to me, asking me for advice, and, you know, asking me for, I guess, wisdom from my own life experiences. And it felt really, really good to be able to, like I said, pay forward from what YouTube had given me. Now I was in a position where I could give people that peace of mind as well. And I decided to post another video after my narcissistic abuse one, and I got an even better, more positive response from that, and people were asking me to make more videos because they liked my delivery, I guess, and they liked the advice that I was giving them, and they were finding some type of comfort, so they were asking me to make more videos. And yeah, it's just been all uphill from there. I sometimes can't believe that people actually watch my videos. Like, whenever I post a video and I see people click on it without me promoting it on Twitter or anything, I'm always like shook, like, people are watching, like. And there's no better feeling than getting out of a situation that you almost didn't make it out of alive, and to give people hope that there is a better tomorrow and that you can take a bunch of darkness and turn it into light. And I feel like that's what my YouTube channel represents. It's like you can go through the craziest things in your life and think that you can't make it through it, and then not only do you make it through it, but you help other people make it through. It's like I went from, in October, feeling like I didn't have a reason to live, to now with 1,500 subscribers, you know, feeling like I wake up every day with 1,500 reasons to live. You know, I'm not going to cry. I'm not gonna cry, okay? But yeah, when people watch my videos and they message me, they tell me like, oh, you know, I almost killed myself, and if it wasn't for your channel, I wouldn't be here. Like, I can't even explain to you how that makes me feel, because I have been in their exact position where a YouTube video saved my life. I recall the guy from my narcissistic abuse video, I recall him, you know, writing me and DMing me like, your videos are doing well. And I didn't know how to feel about it, because I'm just like, maybe I shouldn't post, like maybe I shouldn't talk about him, because I feel like I'm giving him too much power. I'm giving him too much, like, you know, grounds to say, oh yeah, she's stuck on me because all she does is talk about me. But then I thought to myself, like, who cares? Like, who cares if he feels that way? If that makes him feel powerful or superior, that I mentioned him in my videos, that my YouTube channel was made based on what he did to me, then more power to him, you know? It's like, I am so grateful for what he has done to me, and I would never express gratitude to somebody who abused me. Like, I would never be like, thank you for doing that. But I more so express gratitude to myself for taking that situation and turning it into something positive, when I could have let it destroy me and I could have let it break me. So if you want to start a channel, or you feel like you have something to say and you want it to reach a large amount of people, I suggest you do it, and I suggest you do it like right now. Like, don't wait until you have fancy lighting, don't wait until you have a really expensive camera. Just get on the camera and get started, because you have no idea how much of an impact you can make on people and how much of a difference you can make in people's lives just by sharing your story or what you have been through, you know? Okay guys, so that is it. the story about how I started my YouTube channel. Sorry if it was all over the place. I hope you got something from it at least. And like I said, thank you so much for subscribing and thank you so much for watching. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.